'tis the season. It's about time that you and all your van life friends will be hitting the road for those long trips. And we want to make sure that you're prepared for everything you need before you hit the road. Because there's nothing worse than being stuck without cell service and needing a hand and wishing you brought that one tool. Or maybe you're about to fill up your water tank and you forgot that special water nozzle part. So here are the things that you will need before you go on your first trip of the season. Also, make sure you're subscribed because coming up, we're gonna have some mechanical tips for van lifers to make sure your vehicle is ready before you hit the road. Okay, so what's number one that most people forget to bring with them on their trip? It's funny that people forget this, but bring your passport. Even if you're traveling domestically, you want to make sure you have your passport with you because there's those times, maybe you're traveling in Vancouver and you want to jump the border into Washington and check things out. Make sure you have your passport with you. The next one is make sure you have either a physical map or you have a map downloaded to your phone, because there's nothing worse than when you're out of cell range a lot of those times and maybe you forgot in your mind what those directions were that buddy at the gas station gave you. Make sure you have a map downloaded or you have one on hand in your vehicle. In this day and age, not a lot of people do this anymore, but make sure you have cash on hand. Cash goes a long way in certain situations that you need it, and it's really good to have just a little bit of cash backed up in your van somewhere for those times that you need it. Bring a small backup water jug. We do this at times where we can't fill up our water tank because we're in an inaccessible location. So we have our backup water jug, we can fill that up and top up our water tank. Have a roadside assistance plan. So that's something like AAA in America, or here in Canada, we have, in Ontario, we have CAA, something that's gonna cover your van. And make sure it actually does cover your van as a selected RV, because even if you have, say, your roadside assistance for your small car, it doesn't always cover, say, a vehicle as large as a Sprinter van. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you have some small equipment for when you're stuck. Now, these are really easy things like maybe a tire repair kit, a tire inflator, some jumper cables. Make sure you check your spare before you leave, and maybe bring some extra fluids as well, say for your radiator, your power steering, and your brake fluid. And a little bit of engine oil goes a long way, just in case you have a leak. This one is more of a tip, but it is really helpful. Don't stay at Walmart on your first night. On your first night, maybe go to a campsite or something like that. Do something that you can enjoy rather than feeling like you're looking over your shoulder, staying at the Walmart parking lot, wondering if you're gonna get a knock in the middle of the night. Make sure you do your first night as something you can enjoy that kind of sets the tone for the rest of the trip. Here are some other small things you might wanna bring on hand. That's wet wipes. Wet wipes always come in handy. A headlamp. You never know when you need a headlamp to go outside to go pee, or maybe check something on the van in the middle of the night. And bring some extra batteries, AA, AAA, whatever you use in either your headlamps or your flashlights, that sort of thing. An extension cord is always super helpful. I know a lot of people have alternator chargers for their batteries in the back nowadays, but there are times where it's gonna be cloudy on your trip and you need to maybe go to a campsite and charge up all your batteries to 100% again. So make sure you have an extension cord that can reach those plugs. And the other thing you should make sure you do, if you are going to a campsite, they're gonna have those 30 amp plugs, those RV plugs, and you may have to borrow one from the front or maybe buy one before you even head out on your trip. And here's some extra ones that people forget to do, but are some really good tips. Make sure you fill up your gas or your diesel as you're traveling before you hit a quarter tank. That way, if you decide to kind of veer off and go on a little adventure, you're gonna be topped up before you do so and you don't get stuck. Another one is if it's your first time and you're just going beeline right out there for your first adventure in the van, obviously people know this, but make sure everything works. You know, test if you can pull out your spare tire. Make sure you know how to get the air conditioning working, just for example. Make sure everything in your vehicle works before you head out. and that way if something breaks, you kind of know what happened maybe along the way. This is a great tip for anyone, and that is make sure you eat before you get hangry. Sometimes when you're on a van life adventure, you drive for maybe 8 to 12 hours a day just to get where you're going. It's really easy to not eat because you're in such a rush to keep driving, and in turn you kind of get a little bit hangry, especially if you're with a partner. It doesn't make for a pleasant trip. So make sure you got something on hand to eat. And with that also comes, bring one of your favorite foods with you, a food you can't live without, where you know where you're heading, you might not be able to find it there. Maybe you've got your favorite treat that you always buy at the local store, but you know that, say, if you go over the border, you won't be able to find it there. Bring some extra of your favorite foods. And the last one sounds a little bit cliche, but don't sweat the small stuff. It's really easy to get caught up and think everything's against you when things are going wrong. Don't worry about the small stuff. It's water under the bridge. As long as you're safe and you're continuing to where you go, or maybe even something small breaks down, don't worry about it. You'll figure it out. You'll get where you're going. And that's it for this week for our things that most people forget before their first trip. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you haven't yet seen this video, make sure you do, because Outside Van produces some of the most amazing van builds in the world. And this one has some really unique things that Outside Van is pioneering in the van industry. Make sure you check it out. Until next time, safe travels.